Hey, it's Dan again and welcome back to Unified Gaming. Now if you enjoyed the video, then like, subscribe and hit the bell notification to stay up to date. Welcome to my Magicka Necromancer group-based PvP build called the Frozen Colossus. This is a build that's been designed to be able to push into groups of enemies, snare them, lock them down in place with immobilizers and then unleash AoE damage. And on top of that, it's designed to have high mobility for a Necromancer, as well as to be ridiculously tanky to make sure that you can stay in the fight as long as you can. With that said, there are some sustain issues if you push it too hard, so just sort of factor that in. Now this build has been designed for both Battlegrounds as well as Open World, and you can use this in CP and the no CP campaigns. Now with that kind of said, obviously if you go into CP, then obviously you can change some things up to make it a bit easier and a bit more damagey, and if you go into no CP, then obviously you use it as it is currently. Now we're going to go and look at kind of the skills, the armor, everything today, and we'll try and make it a bit quicker. But before we do that, I just want to say a big thank you to all the people who've been supporting the channel, liking the videos, subscribing and commenting. We've been doing this for about a month or so it's just really appreciated. And if you do want to see other content that all go, Dan, I really want to see a Dragonite, I want to see a Warder, I want to see this game or that game, put in the comments and we'll see what we can do. Now for the build, character sheet, pretty standard. What I'm doing on this build though is I'm pushing the max Magicka to try and increase my shields. For this build, I know that shields are really strong because the Necromancer, if you improve the damage, you then have to compromise on the shield, and at which point your tankiness drops quite considerably. So high shields, high heals, high damage. The way to achieve that is high max Magicka. I run the Atronach Wonderstone. This is specifically for Battlegrounds and no CP. If you did, however, want to run a more damaging Wonderstones in CP, I'd suggest the Mage again, pushing both your shields, your heals, and your survivability up as well as your damage. But if you obviously find that kind of reduces your sustain, you then will need to change one of the glyphs. I am a vampire. Stage 3 is absolutely fine. I'm just a bit lazy in all honesty to keep putting it back down to stage 3. But stage 3 makes this work exactly the same as it is, just less damage. And I use tri-stat food. I occasionally get this, so ignore that for the moment. Okay. Now for the skills, and for me, the Magicka Necromancer, the skills are probably the most important part of the build. I've tested 6 or 7 armor combinations so far, and when I got the skills right, they then allowed the armor combinations to work regardless of kind of what you actually ran. So this is the most important part. With that said, obviously you do need to obviously have a kind of base stat line that you hit in order to make this viable. So you need to have about 40,000 Magicka kind of in CP, and in no CP about 36 to 38k Magicka. Kind of any lower than that, you kind of just don't have the tankiness you need to survive in melee range. Now I run Ghostly Embrace. This was a game changer for the build. This basically allowed me to go and snare people on demand. It also gave maim to the enemies, so reduced their damage done, which made me tankier as a result, and it also made them walk slower by 50%. So again, they get stopped if they can. If they can't be stopped, they are slowed by 50%, and they also have their damage reduced. So just really good skill, tankiness skill and sort of utility skill there. I use Blast Bones. This is used because A, it gives you good AoE damage when it actually procs. B, it's good single target damage because it focuses on one enemy and people who run away from it usually will focus that. And you can also put it between you and the target and it takes the damage for you. So not a bad skill, just a little bit buggy in all honesty. I then use Scythe as my spammable. I have tried using Impulse and I found that was just really hit and miss. Impulse had almost the same damage, but this heals you as well, so kind of a no-brainer really. Then the Avid Boneyard is our ground-based AoE. I chose this morph over the other one, as this one gives you obviously the synergy, which allows you to do ridiculous damage. I have also paired this with Harmony and tested with Harmony. Harmony makes this really, really strong. However, your shields become quite weaker, and then your survivability does drop. So Harmony, if you want to go with a really burst-orientated build of this, so a good variant there. Alternatively, stick to how it is currently, and you will find that the shields and the tankiness is just really high, as well as the ability to snare. I then use Blockade of Frost. I'm using an Ice Staff, and I use an Ice Glyph as well. And I use this because when they are chilled, they then get immobilized. The damage is okay, but these aren't really here for damage, they're more for the snare, and this is obviously here for the synergy damage. So this is more snare, immobilize. And then I use the Glacial Colossus as my ultimate, which obviously does really high AoE damage. Now I have changed this and played around with some different ultimates that you can use. I found this was the best for group play because it gave burst for when you do ult dumps. If you are playing in 1 or 2 people, so you're playing in sort of a duo or maybe with 3 people, this kind of becomes better the more people there are, so you then may want to change this to a different ultimate. You could go with Eye of the Storm, or you could go with Bat Swarm, which is up here somewhere. There we go. And go with Devouring Swarm, which obviously heals you as well. The heal from Batswarm will make you tankier as a result, so that is really useful. Back bar wise, it's pretty straightforward. I've gone with an armor buff. I've gone with Beckon and armor because I don't actually have a hard stun. I've got loads of immobilizers but no stun. This is nice as this will give you armor and pull people to you. Ward ally, this is basically taking the place of my burst heal. So rather than having to use the resistant flesh, this basically just does the same kind of job but as a shield. So really good shield here. I use Harness Magicka to make this even tankier, so these pair really well, good synergy there. And I use Intensive Mender to then top me up, so I put on my shields and use this to heal. This is the only heal on the build, so just obviously factor that in, that you have to be more preemptive with this rather than oh no. So shields are your oh no moments, and this is kind of I'm getting around 50% health. I may want to cast this in case I get hit really hard, and I can use my shields, and this will then be ticking. Likewise though, if you are pushed down really low, you can go shield, heal, and you will be fine. And then back to shield again if you need. I highly recommend having a mobility skill on this build, so I've gone with Race Against Time. This is basically for movement speed, for extra crit damage, and then for immobilization immunity. So you can't be snared or immobilized with this on. And I run Temporal Guard as my ultimate because we try and save for this ultimate, so we rarely want to use our back bar ult in all honesty. With that said, you could go with the ultimate from the Live and Death, and what that will let you do is resurrect your teammates, so you're more of a utility build then, but you will be a little bit more squishier than you were. As for skill wise, you can change very few things in all honesty. You can change Blast Bones to Ricochet Skull. The drawback is that you won't be able to keep up what we need to keep up as often, so that's a bit of a bummer there. You could change Hungry Scythe for a spammable and use this Ricochet Skull. It does a little bit more damage, but the Scythe does heal you, so you get more healing power. As such, the Scythe just kind of solved the issues that the build had. So all in all, this is the best skill combination that I found. Passive wise is really straightforward. All passives in your class skill lines. All passives in Destruction Staff, Restoration Staff, Light Armor, Heavy Armor if you want. Passives in Vampire are Supernatural Recovery, Undeath and Unnatural Resistance. Soul Magic you don't really need to worry about. Fighter's Guild, if you can, get Banished the Wicked, just more ult gen. You don't need to worry about that too much though. Mage's Guild, you don't need any of those. Sigil Order, you want Clairvoyance and Concentrated Barrier. I don't have my Untaunted yet. This will obviously go higher, my stats if I had it. So if you can get it, great. If not, don't panic. As for Assault, you want all of your passives here. If you play in Open World, obviously continuous attack and reach and all of them. If you don't play in Open World, you can get away with just Combat Frenzy. Same with Support, so Battle Resurrection. You don't actually need Magicka Aid, so you can go Combat Medic and Battle Resurrection for CP or no CP. The Combat Medic will only work though if you are in Cyrodiil or near a keep. I am a Breton on this build. I find Breton to be probably the best race because your skills are quite expensive and you need to be able to span them often. So rather than having really powerful skills, it's just lots of little ones. And so the cheaper they are, the easier they are to use. And for Alchemy, that's the only craft skill I recommend getting. Get your medicinal use up to 3, sort of, and you obviously need to hit Alchemy level 50 for that. So that's the skills. I've kind of just gone through briefly why I use what I use. This is the best skill combination, and this basically allows you to run pretty much any armor type you want. With that said, however, you do need to hit certain numbers, about 40k. So I give you kind of what I run now. This is obviously with 3 or 4 weeks worth of testing. I've been on PTS, been on live, and I've tested a lot. Now for consumables, if we touch upon armor really quick, it's really simple. Tri-stat food, and then for the potions, I've gone with Tri-stat potions or Essence of Immovability. These are probably the best that you can get though. They make you immune to CC, so you can't be stunned and so on. They give you health, they give you Magicka. Absolutely brilliant. What this allows you to do is pop one of those and pop Race Against Time. You can't be stunned or snared. So it just means you can whiz around the battlefield and your enemies can't, and you can slow them with obviously your snares, your stuns, your AoE abilities. So it just makes this work really, really well. Now for the gear, obviously I tested 6 or 7 different set combinations. I've tried obviously all the skills that you've seen in the footage. And for me, I found that the Magicka Necromancer benefits heavily from having higher max Magicka. So the higher your max Magicka, the better this build works. As such, I went with high max Magicka sets because I need shields to be big and I need damage to be high, as well as just having good sort of a big pool to work with. I do have a couple pieces that are in the wrong trait because I've obviously been changing the sets so many times, so obviously do sort of factor that in. And as I said before, if you would want to see a finished version of this, I have jumped on PTS and have a little clip at the end of the video, so check that out. I went with Necropotence. I found a Frost Staff was best. If you want to play a more damagey build, you will then lose obviously some of the snare potential, and you will then have to obviously go with a Lightning Staff. So if you want a more AoE lightning based build, change this to a lightning staff but keep it necropotence. You can then change obviously your weapon enchant to be something else. You could change your traits to be Nirnhoned if you like. I've gone with a infused staff with obviously a frost glyph to make sure that Wall of Elements is proccing that glyph really often, thus immobilizing people more frequently. I'm then using a restoration staff of necropotence, defending for more resistance. The enchantment can be whatever you like. So I've just gone with this because it's kind of what it came with in all honesty. But you could change this to Berserk, which I've played around with. Doesn't make too much of a damage difference, but it kind of the sustain's not really noticeable. So kind of put what you want on that enchant or a poison. Armor wise, I've used Bloodspawn, so I've got Bloodspawn. Bloodspawn is probably best in stock on this build. Your ultimates are really, really expensive. I have toyed around with obviously using Necrotic Potency. The problem is the heal from it was very sort of lackluster. The ult gem was good, but it was really buggy. It didn't really fire or sort of catch the corpses when you needed, and the corpses disappeared from the floor, so this was just rendered useless. As such, in order to get the ult gen, I then actually went with Bloodspawn. So my original setup actually had Pirate Skeleton. So I did use Pirate Skeleton originally, which obviously is better mitigation than Bloodspawn. The downside is, as I've said, you don't have that ult gen, so you can't push out that ult when you need to. So Bloodspawn personally is best in slot. I'm using obviously Necropotence, so I've gone with Tristat. I would recommend having Tristat on this if you can, but if you don't have the money, just go with Max Magicka, that's absolutely fine too. Ideally, this should be impenetrable, and you could go with heavy armor and heavy armor here. Again, impenetrable on this one here. If you do not have your Undaunted, so you want 2 heavy, 5 medium. If you don't have Undaunted. If you do have Undaunted, heavy, medium, or heavy, medium, any way for that. But one heavy Bloodspawn, 1 medium Bloodspawn, whatever combination would work. I run Necropotence, and I run Alfiq. So the build's pretty straightforward. It's Necro and Alfiq with Bloodspawn. Alfiq, all the small pieces are Max Magicka and Impen. As for the jewellery, I've gone with Alfiq, Alfiq, and Alfiq. I've gone with 2 regen, 1 spell damage. If I go into Cyrodiil, I put this to regen and I change my Mundustone from the Atronach to the Apprentice for more spell damage, or to the Mage for more Max Magicka. I usually go to the Mage though because it's generally better, but that only works if you go into CP. If you're going to no CP, you will need to have recovery, and even recovery if you need to spam your skills an awful lot. That said, though, you do obviously lose some damage, and obviously I've tried different bits here. Now for alternative sets that I have tried, so people kind of get an idea of kind of what does and doesn't work. I've tried Impreg. Impreg is good. This one obviously I haven't bound, but the other one I did. And I found that Impreg was good. It gave you loads of crit resist. And I tried Impreg instead of Alfiq, and I tried to then replace the Bloodspawn with 1 Domhouse and 1 Infernal Guardian. The downside with that is, although you became tanky because of the high crit resist, you did lose out on your shield size, and that meant your overall survivability was actually less. So, because this uses shields and it's really reliant on the shields, you do need to have a high Max Magicka pool. I've also tried Lich, so I've tried Lich on the back bar. So I've tried Lich here, Lich here, Lich here, Lich here. And this obviously allows you to have really high regen. You can go with spell damage, spell damage, spell damage. And again, that works relatively well, and I kept the Necropotent so I could then keep my obviously higher Max Magicka pool. The downside is obviously your shields are smaller, and so your shields are smaller, which means that you have to then run obviously the heal that heals you but gives you minor to file, so resistant flesh, at which point you find this build becomes less tanky but has more sustain, and I found it was actually easier to just have a flat sustain amount rather than kind of something that's a proc that kind of goes up and down in battle and it's hard to then maintain. So Lich did work, but it was kind of hit and miss, as I said. I've tried Falcon Scoria instead of Bloodspawn. That was good for single target damage, but the problem was it didn't do enough damage, and then he made you nowhere near as tanky, so that was a problem there. I have tried Protective Jewelry on this, by the way, and Protective Jewelry with Bloodspawn is really, really tanky, like ridiculously tanky. You do have slightly smaller shields, but because of the extra resistance, it does end up becoming more tankiness than not, so that is a good option. I also tried playing around with Harmony, so I've used Harmony, Harmony, and Harmony. The beauty of Harmony is that it will increase the size of this synergy you can use. As such, you do more damage on the synergies, so you become like a bomb build almost, and that works really, really well. The downside is obviously you lose 3 to 4k Magicka, so you actually become smaller shield sizes, and that in turn then means that you actually have shields that aren't really big enough to survive in sort of melee combat. I've also tried playing around with Proximity Deck, that was quite a fun couple of evenings. So I've actually used this, and then that didn't really work, so I just tested it kind of if it will do what I wanted to do, but because of how these line up here, it's hard to get the detonation to line up properly, so just factor that in there. So that's kind of it really. as I said, obviously with the build so far, this is kind of what I've got it to. This is how I enjoy it. This works exactly what I need it to do. And the beauty is that it's really flexible, it's really versatile. You can change your skills, your armor, and you kind of get a really well-rounded build. And if you change your obviously staff, you can then obviously change the playstyle. So I've actually gone with gold weapons and so on with this, and you can actually go from AoE to single target at the click of a button. So this is really, really good. It just means that you don't have to get too many sets and so on, and there's not too much to change if you want to go from AoE to single target. As I said before, obviously the skills and so on, the tooltips will be updated now, so just check the next clip coming up. And if you enjoy this video, then obviously let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about what I run and why I run it, then obviously put them in the comments as well, and I'll do my best to answer it. For those people curious about CP, I'm going to show you the CP on the 8 to 10 so you can see what it would look like if you were max CP in the next clip. With that said, I'm going to jump off now. I will leave you obviously with the next clip, just showing you the attributes, the skills fully buffed, obviously sped up a little bit. So I'm going to see you in the next one, and once again thank you for watching and I hope you enjoy. Dan signing off. Bye. Now if you enjoyed the video, then like, subscribe and hit the bell notification to stay up to date.